Good evening and welcome to Conservative Chat, a show brought to you by the Barkhamsted Republican Town Committee. My name is Juliana Simone, and my guest this evening is first congressional candidate Matt Corey.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi, Matt.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a Manchester native. I graduated in 1982. I joined the United States Navy right after high school. I served for 5 years under Ronald Reagan. I was very proud to do that. I came home. I worked several different jobs. I worked for the Teamsters. I worked for the Post Office. And then in 1990, I opened up a small high-rise window cleaning company. We've been open for 24 years. And then 2002, opened up a small Irish pub in downtown Hartford called McKinnon's, and we're still open after 12 years.
Very popular place to go on St. Patty's Day.
A lot of fun. A lot of Guinnesses.
So he does both the high-rise. How did you decide to do the high-rise window cleaning?
Partner, my good friend Chris in Boston, we got together and we worked up there for a couple of years, and I decided to do that on my own down in Hartford.
Matthew puts these great photos up on Facebook of him, at these unbelievable heights, and looking down. So you got to admire him for that. Maybe that's the veteran in you, that gives you the spine for that.
I guess so. Let's
talk about John Larson, who's been our first congressional representative since 1999. On the federal level, he's long left his moderate Democrat roots and become lockstep with Nancy Pelosi and the left-wing agenda in D.C. What do you think about John?
John's probably a good man personally, but I think his policies are far to the left. 16 years down in Washington is long enough for anybody. I don't care if you're Republican, Independent, or Democrat. 16 years, I think you start forgetting who you actually represent, and at that point it's pretty much self-serving, in my opinion. So when you stand on the congressional floor during a State of the Union address and give the president a standing ovation when he tells you he's got a pen and a phone, then we've all lost our voice in Washington. So that's why I got involved, because I see the same names year after year after year on the ballot, and I said there has to be a change. And thank you for having me back, and I don't know if your audience remembers me. I ran in 2012 as a petitioning
let's mention that. This is his second time running, right?
So the issues we faced in 2012 is same issues we talked about.
Right, nothing's changed.
They're coming to the forefront here in 2014 with the veterans and their health care, the single payer that's coming up, or the employer mandate and single payer mandate that's coming up with Obamacare. So all these things we've talked about in 2012, and they're coming to the forefront.
And arguably, maybe they've even worsened, right? Because, he's implemented them further.
Well, they're starting to come to tuition, and where people are going to say, hey, this is what they said. You have to read the bill or see what's in it, or you have to pass the bill to see what's in it. I apologize. You have to pass the bill to see what's in it. Well, now we're seeing what's in it, and we're seeing how it's hurting our job growth in the state of Connecticut. Not only that, all around the country. So.
Oh, right. We have tens of millions of unemployed people.
92 million have dropped out of the workforce.
That's a tremendous amount of people.
So you have thousands of new mandates coming down, or new regulations coming down.
Yeah.
Through this Obamacare, and it's just all job crushing and killing.
It's a horrible economy.
But since we're on that, there was a great article in the National Review. Look, we set up these exchanges. It cost us over $700 million. We don't want to scare anybody, but this is something that I think both Democrats and Republicans can find common ground on, and I thought it was a great article. Look, the exchanges are set up. It cost us over $700 million. I know they robbed it out of Medicare, which is just horrible for the seniors. But since they're set up, I think we should get rid of the single-payer mandate. It was a great article. Get rid of the single-payer mandate and get rid of the employer mandate. Let's use these exchanges for a free market system. And I think both businesses and the community can survive on that. And people that with pre-existing conditions can still get their tax breaks and tax benefits and subsidies for the people that are not making that much income. But look, the exchanges are set up, but let's turn them into a free market system where we can still set up healthcare savings accounts, buy insurance across state lines. Let's do it. It's there. Government needs to step back. Let's relook at that. But I think both Republicans and Democrats can find common ground through that. And it won't scare a lot of people off for that. And I think voters will go for that, my opinion.
I agree, Matt. And we've talked about that a lot. I remember that Mark Greenberg used to talk about that too when he first started running in 2010. I think it's good that some of you run more than once because you become more and more familiar with the issues, more and more familiar with the records of your opponents, all of those things, because they're often wrong on the positions. In my
Well, the
opinion.
things we talked about when we were at the Manchester Senior Center, and he was talking to the seniors over there. And look, now with this whole Medicare thing and the penalties that the doctors are getting if they have to re-see a patient, they get fined, and they're not getting the compensation. The doctors aren't getting the compensation that they're due. And so what happens is, what do? You restrict the seniors from the ability to go see the doctors because of that. And so look, just because you have insurance doesn't mean you're going to be able to see a doctor. And so that gives them limited access, and we don't want to do that to anyone. So like I said, if we keep those exchanges open, let's make the best of those, but in a free market system. So.
Okay, thank you. District-wise, one of the tasks that voters expect their elected officials to fulfill is to bring federal money back to their district. So although earmarks are considered a bad thing in general among fiscal conservatives, your state and municipal leaders do expect some of this from their congressional representatives. So where's the happy medium? How do you lobby for needed funding from D.C. that your own constituency requests, and yet as a fiscally responsible legislator in Washington, cut spending and bring the national debt down?
Look, we're approaching 18 trillion, and there's looks like there's no end in sight. So this is a major concern for everybody. So the pork barrel spending has to stop. Look, Senator Coburn has over $250 billion in waste, abuse, and fraud. I think that's one of the first things that I would tackle down in Washington, D.C. I would look at that and address that. There's much needed things in the 1st District. The dam in East Hartford needs to be fixed. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff up here in the New Hartford and Barkhamsted area that needs to be fixed. A lot of the federal roads the roads and bridges in the state of Connecticut are some of the worst in repair.
Yeah, they just made one of those top 10 lists, too. Top 100, top in the nation
Right.
list, yes.
So, we don't have any money.
Right.
So if we're going to bring money home to the 1st District, let's spend it wisely. Let's bring federal funds home that's going to stimulate private sector growth. So we can get the private sector growth along with federal funds to spur economic growth in the state of Connecticut. Instead of just spending money, we can't come home with tax and spend policies. Our complete congressional delegation came home after recess and said, hey, we need to build our ridges, we need to build our bridges, we need to build our roads, we need to do this, we need to do that. Those are tax and spend policies. So we need to have somebody that's going to go down to Washington to bring federal funds home that's actually going to stimulate private sector growth. Building a busway, and I know that was federal funds building there. Look, they stole private property by eminent domain, ruined some businesses along that bus route. It's yet to be seen if that's going to stimulate any private sector growth. I hope it does, and I think everybody in the state of Connecticut hopes it does. I won't hold my breath too long, but let's see what happens.
It is a good example.
But it's just being responsible, bringing federal
wasteful
funds
spending.
home.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so as a member of Congress, which is more important to you, how you vote on federal issues or how you directly serve your district?
I would have put my district first, but federal issues, if it's going to serve my district, that's what I'm most concerned about, because I speak for the people who send me to Washington. Bottom line.
Okay.
The voters control who they send to Washington, and let's hope we have a voice, and we need that.
We sorely need a voice. Sadly, all 5 of our congressional districts now have been held by the Democrat caucus, and you would think, again, they'd want some balance, our voters, and have Republican.
And to your audience, does it matter where your Republican candidate or your Republican congressman comes from, whether it's the 1st or 5th? Doesn't matter. That goes to everybody out there in the Republican Party. Help out your candidate. Doesn't matter. Look, we need a separate voice. And isn't it nice to have somebody on the other side of the aisle that might do something different? I'm not saying anything's wrong with our congressional delegation. It's just they're not pro-growth. So
Right.
if you have a counterbalance, whether it's 1 or all 4 or 5 going down to Washington as a Republican, try something new. Try
Right.
something new. Try a new approach.
Well, that's the whole purpose, to have a balanced constituency and a balanced legislature, is because that's what debate is, and that's why you somehow you don't get your caucus's ideas just swept into law without another opponent that maybe has some feasible ideas, but that they're not going to embrace or listen to.
Our last congressman from the 1st District was Edwin May, 1956.
Wow.
But if your audience wants to look him up, you will look what wonderful things he did in the Hartford area, in the Hartford 1st District, and just along the 1st District. Where do you think the GHO came from?
No, wait. Aren't you forgetting somebody from the 5th? I don't know, because I was
talking about the 1st.
In the 1st. I'm sorry. Right. I was thinking the last Republican congressman.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
Edwin May.
Right. Right. I'm sorry. I know. Long day. Sorry. That's interesting. I didn't know it was that long ago.
Yes, and if you look around and just look up Edwin May, he was the last Republican congressman in the 1st District. But
Wow.
look at the wonderful things he's done in the 1st District.
I'm gonna read up about him.
Just great.
I like to know stuff like that. Okay.
Pro-growth.
Very important. Now, you're a Navy veteran.
Navy veteran.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Let's talk about national defense for a moment, since so much is going on with Putin and Russia and ISIS. Obviously, Mr. Obama has cut and run from dealing with these issues in a global way, preferring to play golf or continue to bust the allotted budget for a president and his first lady's travel expenses around the world. But what is it you think he should be doing as a formidable leader, and how would you initiate his ineffectiveness into something productive if he were a sitting member of Congress?
He needs to send the world a message that he needs to lead from the front, not behind, and he needs to call Congress back into session, have an up and down vote. Let's vote on this crisis in ISIS. We need to vote on it. I mean, it's that simple. And we need to show leadership. But he also needs a strategy, how he's going to go in, how long we're going to be there, and how we're going to get out. But that's it. I mean, basically, look, pulling the troops out, we all know it was a mistake. We're a forgiving nation. But let's secure the United States. Let's secure our borders. Let's lead from the beginning, from the front. Because we can't wait for an allied nation to lead, because there's no powerful nation in the United States. So we need to do that. We need to show leadership in the world that we are not going to stand for this. We're not going to stand for the atrocities that are taking place in Libya and in Iraq.
Who do you think the greater threat is? I mean, do you think it's Putin's new aggressiveness in Russia and his continued domination of neighboring countries, or do you think it's the terrorist cells and
they
that
both
are?
But what does it come down to? Failed energy policy here in the United States. So the sanctions are not going to hurt anyone. So we have a failed energy policy here in the United States. What is Ukraine all about? Their energy resources, their natural gas, the oil that's flowing into Europe. What is it in the Middle East? Their oil. So we have our Navy men and women protecting the Straits of Hormuz, bringing up oil tankers back to the United States. We need to get energy independent. That's the only way we're going to feel secure as a nation. We need to have a strong economy. It's peace through strength. Those are the famous words. And it's not only military-wise, it's economic.
Right. Well, the Democrat caucus is always opposed to the Keystone Pipeline. And,
those are good union jobs. I don't understand.
And they don't like the fracking. They don't really. They're finding reasons that's bad.
Look, we're all for renewable energies. We're all for safe environment. There's not one person in this world, probably in this country, that's not for a safe environment. Nobody wants to pollute. Look, we're for renewables. We need to have fossil fuels need to be part of that equation. Senator Joe Manchin, I agree with him. Coal, clean fracking, clean oil needs to be part of that whole solution. Why should it be at taxpayers' expense, and why should it be at good American jobs? We can bring the energy costs down. By raising energy costs, who do you hurt? He supposedly hurts the same people he's supposed to represent, the elderly. Should the elderly choose between eating or paying a heating bill in the wintertime? Should they choose between their medicine? How about the middle class? Should they just think about how much money could go back in the economy if we cut the gas prices in half? And for the poor, should they choose between a meal and a hot room? It doesn't make any sense. So this would help businesses. It would help get this economy going. We need energy policy. Not only that, it would make us a stronger nation. It's that simple.
And more self-reliant. I mean, really, we just do business with our enemies.
Look, we're giving millions and millions of dollars to nations that sponsor terrorism, buying oil. Does that make any sense to anyone out there?
I don't think so. And when you talk to the general public, they don't think so either. I don't know, I've addressed this many times hosting this show for so many years. I don't understand why the Connecticut voters keep voting in the
It depends on what side of the political aisle you're on.
The Democrat.
What scientists you want to believe. You're going to believe a scientist that believes in global warming. You're going to believe a scientist that has been the coldest for over 20 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look, they told you margarine was good for you. Now they told you margarine was bad for you. I mean, we have to get the American people back to work. What's more important? The 92 million people that are unemployed or out of work, that's the largest number in this world's history out of work in the United States. And
it's a stunning number, and when George Bush was in office, it was around 4%, and the media was hysterical every day about this enormous percentage of people out of work at 4%. And my God, that would be a dream right now, wouldn't it?
Well, look, that's why we need pro-growth policies here in the United States. We need to lower the corporate tax rate. I know that's hard for a working class person to realize, but the money would be reinvested in the United States. Wages would go up. You can't force a minimum wage on somebody. You can't, how can you tell somebody what they're worth, hourly worth? You can't do that. So having pro-growth policies, the United States needs to be competitive around the world. That's the only way they're going to get this country back together. They say it's unpatriotic for Burger King to move out, for Covidien to move out with Medtronics to Ireland. Burger King just went over with Tim Hortons in Canada. They still pay their fair share. Fair share is what? They still pay the taxes in the United States, but why should they pay taxes that they make in Canada and Australia back to the United States when they already pay taxes in one country? Doesn't make any economic sense. So if we repatriate the money back to the United States, it's good for the worker. Everything goes back into the businesses here. Better machinery, better hours. It's more competing wages. It doesn't make any sense to have these companies move out of state. What's more unpatriotic? The federal government consuming all the wealth in this country? It's unbelievable how they want us to sacrifice. Isn't it always that the government tells us we have to sacrifice? The president came out and said when he bailed out General Motors, you're going to have to sacrifice for the next generation. I got a message for the government. The government needs to do a little sacrificing. Why should you? We work hard enough. We work hard enough out here.
I agree with you, Matt. It was an excellent response. See, this is why Matt is a great candidate, and I say this all the time, and many people think so. And not just Republicans, but unaffiliated and independents and your moderate Democrats that feel shoved out of their party and that they don't really have a party anymore. So he's a great independent voice for
Look, I'm out there with all the guys. I wear a hard hat. I wear steel-toed boots. I'm out on construction sites. Just because I own two small businesses doesn't mean I'm not out there working.
Oh, you're working. I see your pictures all the time. So. Okay, so, right, so you're a great candidate. You're running against incumbent John Larson, who, because we don't have term limits and such, has just been there a long time. You own your two different companies, and you are, again, are a Navy veteran and someone definitely on the same lines as so many voters, regardless of party affiliation. So I'm wondering how someone like you, how do you feel the Connecticut GOP and the RNC are helping you in this race and with their candidacy? Well,
it's unfortunate that the GOP focuses on which they think is the only winnable seats, and I won't mention them. I mean, they think they know for themselves. But look, I cover 27 districts, and I think the town RTCs are one of the most wonderful people. They reach out. So our candidacy is not counting on the Connecticut GOP to help out. I know they're focused on bigger races, which is fine. That's why I reach out to the people in the communities. And so I'm not only getting help from the Connecticut RTCs, the local towns, but just people in the community. And so it's wonderful. And it's been great that we've been getting donations outside my district in the state of Connecticut. So like I said, it doesn't matter where your Republican candidate comes from, first, fifth, second. It's great that people are reaching out.
Right.
So look.
Well, that's a grassroots outreach.
Grassroots.
Where you kind of have to get your own. I mean, the Tea Party people were also well known for helping candidates. They didn't feel the delegates at the convention or the insiders were helping out. So they were very good at giving them volunteer work and making calls for them, all those things. So yeah, I mean, so you're feeling like, you're right, they do kind of pick and choose the races that they're going to support. I don't even always think those are the right ones, and any of you that know my writing on Ameriborn News Network know that even though I'm an RTC chair, I speak my opinion when I don't
The
think
Connecticut GOP is going to do what they want
candidate's
to
a
do.
good one.
But look, a lot of the candidates that are running are reaching out to each candidate. So we're all helping each other out in whatever way we can do that.
Yeah,
Door
you do.
knocking, flyers, mailers.
It's a nice circle.
Yeah, so I mean, from the governor's race all the way down to state reps, everybody is helping everybody out here. And they know that. We're all in this together, so it's getting a message across is what we need to do.
It's just kind of pathetic, though, that Republicans here in Connecticut and outside of Connecticut, that the leadership just kind of shrugs their shoulders when it comes to the first congressional district here in Connecticut.
Okay.
Like, oh, well, Larson's unbeatable. He raises, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Napa Valley in California and millions that he never even has to spend. So he just gives them to fellow Democrats who maybe need the money. So why bother? It is what it is. Let's just look elsewhere. I mean, that is kind of their attitude.
That's okay. He can raise all the money he wants to raise. I'm in this to represent the people of the state of Connecticut, represent the people in the first district. John Larson can sit on all the millions he wants in the world. It's getting the message out. And look, he needs to he needs to defend his record. He's been down there 16 years. Call him out right here. Let's debate as many times as you want to debate, Mr. Larson. You need to defend your record. 16 years down there. If you haven't accomplished what you went down there in the first place, then when? So.
I covered your last debate with him when you were the independent candidate, the petition candidate, and John Henry Decker was running at that time.
Great.
And I think I covered him also when he debated with Ann and a Green Party candidate. It just seems to me he chooses one debate just maybe a month before Election Day that he talks to all of you. It's just the one.
Look, this is the problem with Washington.
I do remember you gave him some good hard answers, though.
Look, this is the problem with Washington, and it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Independent, or Democrat. It's a shame that the voters can't see who you really are. So when you have policies like the employer mandate being passed after midterm elections, that's a shame. When you have over $34 billion in new regulations going towards energy after the midterm elections, that's a shame. So if they would expose the policies that they have, let the people see that's the right of the people to see your policies, but they wait till after midterm elections to expose themselves and say, oh, well, okay, so I got through that election. Let's see if we can't make it a little better. I got through that election. So, I mean, that's the problem with Washington. It's broken. We know it's broken, and that's why term limits need to be in. I already signed the pledge.
It's time for a change.
I signed a pledge, 3 2-year terms for congressmen. So I made that pledge before I ran.
It's time for a change, and there's people that argue, well, we have term limits, really naturally, because it's up to the voters, and if they want to vote someone out, they'll vote them out, and so we actually have term limits in that way. But it's not really true, because if you have an uninformed electorate, and these are voters that are just filling in the circle that they're registered under and not knowing any of the issues or any of those things, and in that instance, that argument doesn't work for me, and you do need term
You're right.
limits.
The argument doesn't work because it comes down to big money and big politics. It comes down to crony capitalism and picking and choosing winners and losers and who funds your campaign. Big corporations that are going to take care of you. So, yeah, for little guys like myself or anybody else that wants to run, yeah, it kind of deters you. And, yeah, that's where term limits come in handy. But if they don't have them, like I said, he's sitting on millions of dollars, and he's not sitting on millions for no reason.
I know. So this is why I'm having Matt on, and we're trying to get Matt out there as much as possible. My Barkhamsted Republican Town Committee is having their biannual fundraiser.
Great.
And Matt will be speaking there. It's here in Barkhamsted on River Road on September 30th. If anyone would like to come by and meet Matt, because he's great to meet in person, and he'd be happy to answer any of your questions. You can, I'm sure, look at your website too, where you make that available where you're going to be if someone wants to meet you.
Well, I mean, we're talking about that. It goes back to the Import-Export Bank, where they want to keep that open. They want to fund that. I mean, that only helps out 2% of the small businesses. We call it the Boeing Bank. A lot of people call it the Boeing Caterpillar Bank. Why should we be funding taxpayer money to countries that want to destroy us, like Dubai? Not Dubai, but Saudi Arabia. I mean, Dubai has more money than we do. We lent Dubai money, Russia money, through this Import-Export Bank. So it's taxpayer money. So the same things.
I don't think most people know.
Well,
that
the same
we're doing
things that
that
he rallied against with the Dodd-Frank bill were risking taxpayer money to buy our product where they could fund themselves. If everything's so right and good, they could fund themselves. But here comes back to crony capitalism, where these certain corporations will see, hey, we got access to taxpayer money. So who are they going to vote for? Where are they? Where's your campaign donations going to? The guys are going to take care of you. And so who's it hurt? Hurts the American worker.
I agree.
And the American taxpayer.
I agree, man. We got a few minutes. Let's talk about the business-unfriendly climate in Connecticut that's only grown worse as we continue to make every nationwide survey. It's the worst place to open a business, grow a new business, keep a business in the state. As a small business owner yourself, how would you help change the status if elected?
Here we go again. Connecticut is a mirror image of where they want to take this country. We have the highest energy prices, some of the strongest regulations, some of the highest taxes. Why do you think businesses are fleeing? It's an unfriendly environment. Once again, we need to have pro-growth policies. Connecticut is about tax and spend, tax and spend. What did Connecticut do other than take taxpayer money and give it to corporations to say, please stay here?
The ones they chose to, yeah.
Pick and choose winners and losers.
Right.
Where was my grant? Where was any other small business? Not that I want one, but that's what I'm saying. So why would you have to pay a corporation to stay in Connecticut when you know it's so business unfriendly?
Right. It makes no sense.
So who loses their job? So businesses can't control taxes, they can't control regulations, and they can't control high energy costs. So where do they cut first? The American worker.
And we see that here in the state, which is why we're hoping to elect a new governor, and on the federal level, which is why, since we didn't get Romney, we'll have to hope in 2016 we get a new president, so we can grow our country back to
it's greatness.
It's greatness.
It's greatness. This is the greatest country in the world.
Let's talk about immigration for a minute. Really getting out of control. What's the answer in your view? Is it deportation, amnesty? What are your views for some kind of solution in this? Because I think most people recognize that it's just really
first and foremost, before
hand.
we can even sit at the table, we need to secure our borders, especially in these times here with ISIS, people coming across the border from we don't even know what countries. They're breaking the rule of law. We're putting our law enforcement at risk down on our border. Those brave men and women who are protecting our border are at risk. So, I mean, not only that, the American public is at risk. Secure our borders. Look, work visas, e-verify, all that works. People come across here, they want to work. Let's put them to work legally, not illegally. Let's put them to work legally. Let's hold companies liable who hire illegal aliens.
I agree, and I think this whole, latest story about the children that they were using, and that they have this underground tunnel, bringing in all these people from South America, Central America, Mexico, the children, and of course they've documented many of them are adults, and from places like Yemen and all that stuff. To me, they're cluster bombs because it just seems like where they're choosing to put them to is all like red states and red districts.
It's unfortunate the president, in his words, has caused this mess on our United States borders.
It's a shame.
We need to secure our borders.
He doesn't seem to respect that, and that's one of his main descriptions of his job.
And the policy shouldn't be we're going to break up families. I mean, that's not our policy.
No, God.
Legal path, like everyone else, to citizenship.
A lot of people have.
Let's get work visas going.
Okay, Matt, how can somebody reach you if they want to volunteer, certainly if they want to donate, if they want to meet you, do phones?
Thank you very much, Juliana, for having me on here.
You're certainly
folks, this is an election about if you want large government or you want small government. I believe in the individual. I believe in the entrepreneurship of the individual. I believe in you that can unleash the energy in this country and make it great. I don't believe in big government, big long-arm government telling you what to do every single day. So if you want to reach me, you can go to CoreyForCongress2014.com. I appreciate any volunteer help, or share us or like us on Facebook, because obviously we're not going to beat this guy financially, but we can beat him through social media.
And that pen, you can just fill in that circle with a pen, and we'll win the election for Matt.
Yes,
and
and
that
please,
refreshing voice here in Washington. Please vote for Matt this November.
Please come out and vote.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.